on the mat, niggas thought that I was done for. But I popped up, got back to it. Niggas say shit, but they not gon' do it. Sick of all the talk, so the team got Fluent. To Fluent first class, I flew it. Work, then I'm probably going ghost. Parties where I can't do a post, it's a trip. Drove, then we toast in the whip. She get too close, and we dip. I don't know what niggas on, but it ain't this. Young Dale let a game, bitch, I can't miss.
If you didn't get the reference, that's Young Dell like Curry, Fluent and Chill in the building. You probably saw that it says with Haley at the bottom, as you can see. H Boogie had to boogie tonight. She had another engagement that responsibilities. You got to take care of that stuff first. So you're stuck with the OG duo. You know how long ago it was we had our first episode?
This is how we started, Tone. This was in like 2021. 2020, like 2021.
It's been a long time.
Something crazy like that. That's how this is how we started.
I feel like the only thing that has changed is I got more grace.
Oh, I definitely got more grades since then. No doubt about that. I definitely have more grades, but it's how we started. Yep. This is where we started at, and this is how we got it cracking. So we back to our roots.
Yeah, absolutely. Which means we'll have more time for you guys to come on and give your terrible takes. But first, breaking news from the NBA. I'm in this year's NBA draft. No, that's not it.
No, that's not it.
Although it's true. Nikola Jokic. Not once. Wait for the balloons. Not twice. No balloons. All right. But a third time in 4 years. MVP. And some would say he probably should have won it last year. I don't think we're shocked that he won. But are you shocked that they didn't go in another direction? Because you always hear like voter fatigue and et cetera. But he did do what they want him to do. He won 2 MVPs, and they said, but he's got to do it in the playoffs. Well, won an NBA championship, Finals MVP, put up the same type of ridiculous numbers.
Yeah.
Are you surprised?
Not really, Tone. And you and I have actually had like knockdown, drag out fights about the voter fatigue because, I'm not an advocate of it. I actually hate to hear it. But the idea, I think Joker finished second last year in league MVP votes. And I think that he should have won it last year too, considering. But the reason why he didn't, because if he wins it last year, considering what they did in the playoffs, they end up winning the NBA championship. On top of them winning the NBA championship, he wins the Finals MVP. That'd be 3 in a row. Plus winning the NBA championship and the Finals MVP. Now we got to have a different conversation about Joker. And there's people who are not prepared to do that right now. So now they figure if we split it and we skip a season, now we don't necessarily have to have that conversation. Even though if he wins it next year, we're going to have a different conversation about Joker because that'll be 4 times in 5 years that he did it. But the tricky part though, Tone, is when you get to this space where you're winning it as much as he did, which I don't think he's going to win it again, Tone. I think that's it. And the reason why I feel like that's it is because when you get to this space, now we're in a place where what you do, that's just the norm for you. And what somebody else does. So, for example, Brunson, who finished 5th in league MVP votes. So he might do a little bit more. You might do the same thing that you did last year, next year. You might do the same thing, but because Brunson was a little bit better, that's not his norm. So they may pick him. Same logic with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or Luka. Luka got passed up, Tone, off the strength that the MVP, you and I have had this conversation almost ad nauseum. The MVP is about winning, man. It's always been about winning. These postseason awards, whether it's, and we're going to talk about the Defensive Player of the Year also, but these postseason awards, the reason why they are validated is because they're about winning is attached to them. The Defensive Player of the Year, the League MVP. When you get Joker winning it in 22 as a 6 seed, yeah, sure. He basically had the same season, Tone, that Jabbar had in 75, 76, where Jabbar basically led the league in almost everything. So, of course, I do understand that. Joker did almost the same thing in the 22 season, even though they were the 6 seed, and I didn't like that at all. But those are anomalies. For the most part, the league MVP has been a guy whose team is at the top of the league and they're winning. So winning matters. The fact that Denver, I believe they finished tied for first place in the Western Conference. I think they lost.
Technically, OKC was the number 1 seed, but yes, they were the 2 seed, but by tiebreaker. Yeah,
right. They finished with the 2nd seed. But with that being said, the voting, not just voting, winning matters when we're talking about these postseason awards. And as good as Joker was, he was in the top 10 in every major category: points, rebounds, assists, blocks. He was in the top 10 field goal percentage, wins, stuff like that. He was in the top 10 in the league in that. So with that being said, the fact that he won and his team went deep in the playoffs, the fact that he won and his team was at the top of the league because it's a regular season award. Tone, don't misunderstand winning by winning the NBA championship, because that's not the case when you win in the league MVP. Because you win the league MVP does not mean that you have to win the NBA championship. However, you can't win the league MVP and get bounced in round 1 every year. That can't happen. There has to be some winning that's attached to you. And on top of that, being the best player in the league helps.
I do have one question. Because I listen, I was pushing the narrative for SGA, not just because he's Canadian, but I think, listen, bigs have won it the last, 4, 5, 6 years. Right, is Embiid, Jokic a couple of times, Giannis a couple of times. Let's give it to a small guy. So I was pushing that, but I didn't think anyone was gonna beat out Jokic. Right, last year I told you I think it was very, very negative driven. Very negative driven, right? I said to you the year before,
you didn't like that at all last year. You didn't.
Because I said that the year before that is the one that I think actually should have been Embiid,
right?
And they kind of that narrative of we need to make it up to him because he probably should have been him last year.
In 22, that was in 22.
Yeah. So I think they felt like it was close. So okay, I think it swayed enough voters that Embiid won it last year, whereas I think Jokic actually should have won it last year. The thing that you said, though, that was interesting, and I want to get to another point in a second, but you said he's not going to win it next year because he has to do kind of more than he's done. But when I look at the numbers, 79 of a possible 100 voted for him this year. You think it would have to be more than half of them would have to say, you know what? He put up the same numbers he did this year or better. They're the number 1 seed. Let's assume he did it again without an all-star co-star, although he might be the best non-all-star we've seen, but probably not going to play again a lot as that's just his thing. Even right now, he's hurting. So it would have to be more than half. I don't know that if he puts up the same exact stat line and they finish the same kind of record where they're the top of the Western Conference, I don't think there's that many people. Less will vote for him. But I think he's your front runner going into next year. And the thing about him is he's the type of big or the type of player, he's not based on his athleticism. He's not based on some of these physical attributes other than his size. Please don't pull down my wall. He's not gonna, as he gets older, I can only speak for the people I've seen do their footwork, fundamentals, positioning, passing. I feel like they get hands. I see they get better as you get older.
Sure, I could get with that.
More aware of those things. Here's a guy that's what his whole game is based on. He might be better next year.
That may very well be the case, Tone. But with that being said, it goes against your original logic, which him winning the league MVP this year kind of squares what happened last year between him and Joel Embiid. That kind of squares it. Now we get back to it's an even kill where the same thing happened to Giannis. So Giannis wins the league MVP in back-to-back seasons. So now 29, 12, and 6 assists, that's kind of who you are. So we can't keep giving you the league MVP off the strength of that because
why not?
And unfortunately, that's just the way that works. But it shouldn't. No doubt it shouldn't. It should not, because if I am 29, 13, 6 assists, and we're at the top of the league, that voter fatigue thing that you talk about, that should not exist. but it does. Even though there are guys who have great seasons, for example, Jalen Brunson, because that's not his norm. So we got to start looking at.
Let me hold you there. Let me pause you there for a sec because it brings me to my next point. So here are the guys that were in the running, technically. Okay. And I'm going to tell you how many first place votes they got because they were only in the running because of the other one. Kevin Durant, 0 first place votes. Is he going to have a better season next year?
I don't even think he finished in the top 5. So I think he finished 8th or 9th.
It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th. I got the top 9 here. Okay. So he's 9. He's at that age where he's probably not going to have a better season.
I doubt it.
Right? Especially if he, ends up in the Lakers or Golden State, where he's probably going to go. Right. Conversation for later in the summer. Then you have Sabonis was 8th, also had 0. Right. Let's be frank. He's not going to have a season that's MVP caliber season. Let's just be honest.
That's probably all we're going to get. I mean, led the league in double doubles, led the league in triple doubles. That's probably that's probably the peak of his
feeling. Yeah.
Okay.
Ant got 0 first place votes. Right. He has an opportunity to take a jump, but he's also on a team that has a lot of pieces. So I think that hurts him a little bit, even when he does take a jump, and he might be 2 years or 3 years away.
Right.
Jason Tatum.
Yep. He actually went backwards this year.
Part of it, I think, because he has a better supporting cast.
Yep.
Right. And I don't think that's going to change for next year. So I don't think he has a great chance unless he does something extraordinary. Look, I'm taking the extraordinary out. I'm saying if they take regular steps, right? Jalen Brunson played out of his mind this season. And he duplicate it is the question. Right. And if he does, to your point, are they expecting it from him now? Right? Because if he does what he did regular season, now doing what he's doing in the playoffs, for this team to win, right? Mitchell Robinson's, we're going to get to the series here in a second, but Mitchell Robinson out for the rest of the playoffs. Already Julius Randle is hurt. Like, this is a team where he's going to have to put up, like he did, 40 plus a night to get wins. So even if he gets them by Indiana, now it's going to become, that's who Jalen Brunson is. So it's not going to surprise anybody. But even though he had this great season, 0 first place votes.
Right.
Giannis got 1. He's hurting. Right. His game is changing. Luka got 4 for the season that Luka had.
4 first place votes.
4 first place votes is surprisingly low to me. Shea got 15. He has an opportunity to get some more of that. And that's why I bring it back to Jokic and say, if he puts up the exact same stat line, all those other guys had career years. So can they take that big enough step where it's like, oh, wow, I don't know that they can. I don't know that they can.
Which means that Joker could very well be the favorite.
I think he's
he could very well be the favorite.
Today's your
excuse me, Tom.
He also has, sorry, just one last thing.
Yep.
All of those guys that I mentioned, Shea's got Chet, Luka's got Kyrie, Giannis has Dame. Yep. Brunson's the one guy who maybe doesn't have a supporting cast. Tatum has who, right? Ant has a team. Sabonis has Fox. Durant right now, who knows, but right now has Beal and Booker.
Right.
He still, with the exception of Brunson, probably has the worst supporting cast.
Brunson does.
Yeah, I said other than Brunson,
Jokic has the worst. Well, here's the thing, Tone.
From a star power. From a star power,
which I don't think that matters. And the reason why I don't think that matters is because when you think, prime example, Tone, with your Lakers in 2008 when Bryant won the league MVP. I mean, Gasol wasn't a superstar. He was a star turning into something great. Lamar Odom, Andrew Bynum.
No, but that's not star power.
It's not. So the fact that Bryant was as good as he was with these guys, I feel like that amplified how good the unit was. I mean, they won 65 games that year. But back to your point about the original guys, like at 9, I think we've seen everything that we're going to see out of KD. He's going to be 36 on opening night. I think that we've seen everything that we're going to see out of him. Sabonis, I do think that we can get better seasons out of him, Tony. And I know that because he averaged, he led the league in double doubles and triple doubles. There's a difference between me averaging 35 and 29 might be better. I might have a season where I average 29, and I might be better than the 35 that I've averaged. That's kind of where I am with Luka, to be quite honest with you. When I think about everything that he's done, but I feel like Sabonis is. I feel like we're in the Sabonis peak years. That's where I feel like we are with him. I do feel like we're still gonna get some great seasons. And on the other hand, Tone, one, they got a bunch of young guys. I think he's gonna be the league MVP in the next 3 years. I'm not on the fence.
And I when you're taking it out 2-3 years for a lot of these guys, I'm the younger ones, obviously. I'm with you. My next question is this, and there's 2 more questions. He got 79 first place votes.
Yep.
18 second place votes. 2 third place votes. Now I don't know how good your math is, but mine's excellent. That adds up to 99.
Yes.
There are 100 ballots.
So we're missing somebody.
Are you telling me? I hope everybody's adds up to 99 and he just didn't vote or she just didn't vote at all. Because if someone left him off their top 5, they should be stripped of their voting privilege.
Hand that over. Yes, absolutely. If you don't think he at minimum deserved a 5th place vote, at minimum. If you're looking at all the if you're looking at all the places, Tone, again, Tone has a MVP vote. And with Tone having an MVP vote, because wait a minute, Mark Jackson did this. He ended up leaving Joker. I think it was it Joker? I think he left off his ballot. I think it was last year or the year before that. I think he left Joker off of his ballot. He did do that.
Just to be a jerk.
I don't know what it was about. He did leave Joker off his ballot. One of the things that I'm thinking
about, left him off the ballot tomorrow, strip them, give that vote to me.
I'm thinking the only way you possibly could have left him off the ballot is you just forgot. Like you just had a complete brain fart and you just forgot. There's no other explanation.
SGA probably deserves a vote. Giannis, okay. Luka. Oh, Brunson had a good year. Oh, and Tatum.
Mm-hmm. Let's forget about the defending world champion finals MVP. Yeah, let's leave him off of it. Let's completely forget about him. But the guys, when I look at this MVP vote, Tone, the first thing I'm thinking about is they valued winning. That's why Luka was where he was. That's why Kevin Durant was where he was. That's why a lot of these guys were where they. I was surprised Jason Tatum wasn't higher, but I see why Brunson was where he was. I think the Knicks finished 2nd in the East. And
I completely understand. Yeah, Brunson got 3 seconds, a third, 28 fourths, and 32 fifths. That makes complete sense to me to say, hey, he needs to be in that conversation because of the season he had. Absolutely. Sure. I don't think anyone's crazy enough to say he was the MVP.
Right.
But they all gave him, I think, well-earned respect that, hey, we need to make sure he's in that conversation. Finishing 5th is still people might knock that, but that's quite the accomplishment for a guy that, the Knicks paid way too much money for. Dallas doesn't need him. Oops.
We were actually, I said I had a buddy of mine that I said to, if you're looking at that contract today, Tone, it's like getting a Bentley Continental with 22,000 miles on it for $25.
Yeah, I was gonna say for peanuts. Yeah, that's
it. You got it for almost nothing. So they're definitely gonna have to pay. But the fact that Brunson finished top 5 in MVP votes 2 years ago when you got him, you didn't think that he was gonna be this good. And if any of you say you thought he was gonna be this good, you're lying.
They're all lying.
You did not think that he would be this good. You thought he would be good, but the guy on the crew was Julius Randle. He was the All-Pro. He was the All-Star. He was the 20 and 10 guy. He was the guy who, before you even showed up, they were making the playoffs. Did we think that he was going to surpass Randle? I did not think that. No, I didn't. And to your point about Jason Tatum, I mean, we're talking about a guy who actually took a back seat, not a back seat, but because his crew was as good as it was, he played almost a lesser role. But with that being said, they were still awesome. They were still awesome. And the fact that he finished right outside the top 5 in MVP votes, that doesn't bother me. I would not have had a problem if SGA would have won the league MVP, Tone. That wouldn't have bothered me at all, because considering what he did, but I will tell you this, and if my memory serves me correctly, the guys who have had the most 50-point games that have won the league MVP in the past and won the NBA championship in the same year, Jordan did it in 1990-91. I can't remember everybody, Tone, but I know Jordan did it in 1990-91. They had the most 30-point guys. Did I say 50-point games? I'm sorry, Tony. The most 30-point games, and won the NBA championship. I know Jordan did it in 1991, but that's the only guy that I remember. I know James Harden won it in 18-19. They didn't win the NBA championship. I know Jordan did it again in 88-89. They didn't win the NBA championship. Oh man, there's a few guys that I'm actually missing who the most 30-point games without winning the league MVP, but not winning the NBA championship. Those are the two guys that I think about off the top of my head. I know that Shea did it, and I know that Jordan did it in 1990-91. I know that James Harden did it. Again, I know that Chamberlain did it. I think he did it in
so how many players won the MVP and the championship in the same year? I don't know.
No, not the MVP and the championship in the same year. Tom had the most 30-point games. That's what I'm thinking about when I'm thinking about SGA, because SGA, he had I think he had 50 plus 30-point games this year. Jordan did that in 1990-91, and they won the NBA championship. I'm trying to remember who else did that though, because there was somebody else who did that besides him. I know SGA did it. I know SGA did it I know SGA had that many 30-point games. But we're still waiting to see if they're going to win the NBA championship. But I know that there's some other guys who, I know Jordan did it.
Led the league in 30-point games and won an NBA title. We got to, we'll look that up. We'll look that up. That's a good one. So I'm sure someone's going to come in the comments and share that.
Yeah.
So that brings us to, let's have the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
He's now won 3 in 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't look like he's going to win another title this year. Mm-hmm. We'll get to that series in a second. But if he wins 4 in 5 years and wins another title, what conversation are we having, right? Like, does he get into that, or is he already in that conversation with Bill and Wilt and Shaq and Olajuwon? And that's really the 4. I'm sure I'm missing someone.
But again, Tony, it depends on what conversation you're talking about having him in. So when James did it in 2013, when he won the league MVP and they won the NBA championship and he was the finals MVP for the 4th time in 5 years, I had people trying to sell me James and Jordan. I wouldn't even entertain that conversation because I'm like, no, he's not there yet. He still has a lot more work to do. Well, I feel like Joker, I think he showed up in 15. So I think he's in year 9. For him, if next season, if we're going the way you think we're going, and he ends up,
let's say this next year, MVP, chip, Finals MVP.
So that's 4 times in 5 years.
MVP, 2 times in 3 years. Finals MVP, and 2 times in 3 years winning the chip,
being an All-Pro, all of that good stuff, and I absolutely feel that. But when you're talking about, again, Olajuwon, we're talking about Russell, when you're talking about Chamberlain, Jabbar, right? You're talking about Shaq. I mean, you're talking about a different type of greatness. I mean, you're talking about guys who are members of the 20,000 point, 10,000 rebound club. You're talking about guys who've had 10 years of sustained greatness. You're talking about guys who've done it. Now, don't get me wrong. I can appreciate you telling me that did any of these guys have a better peak than Joker? Because that a lot of times is what the conversation is. Were these guys as good as Joker in a 5-year span? How many of these guys in a 4 or 5 year span were as good as Joker? Well, I think that's a bit of a different conversation. However, when you're talking about putting Joker in the same category with those guys, I think now the longevity logic comes in. And the reason why I feel like that, Tony, is because when you're talking about doing something great for a long time, that matters when you're talking about an all-time great. Because when you talk about an all-time great, 1, my game travels. 2, how long was I awesome? If I was awesome for a long time, as opposed to I was good during a 10-year span, I had a 3 or 4 year stretch where I was awesome. But then the other 6, 7 years, I was good. I was pretty good, as opposed to Shaq or Olajuwon, who for 10 years averaged 25, 13, and 3 blocks. For 10 years, I did that. Now, if you can say that and do what you're doing, like you said, Tony, fast forward, it's May of 2025, and Joker has won his 4th league MVP in the next 5 years. They're headed to the conference finals again, and it looks like they're going to win the NBA championship again. Maybe we might start entertaining that conversation, but he still has work to do.
Do you put him near the same level as 2013 Braun then? Because it would have been the same thing.
It would have been the same thing. And now what I have to do, Tones, I have to put you in the category with your peak. Like these 4 or 5 years, how much better were you than, let's say, James, let's say Jordan, let's say Chamberlain, let's say Russell? How good were you during this time? During that time, you did the same thing that LeBron James did. So I think that we can have that conversation. Now, Can I put you in the same category with these guys moving forward? No, not yet. You still got more work to do.
So if he does this, the next step is now how long can you be great to sustain it? Okay.
Sure.
So let's go jump right into that series then. Down 2-0.
Yep.
At home. Minnesota came in, and I saw this great meme. It showed Denver, and it looked like there was like 20 Minnesota defenders on the court, and it's like, this is how the Nuggets feel right now.
Hey, everywhere. Get them off me.
They're getting defense from everyone.
Right.
It's been beautiful to see. I said this to you last night when we were talking with the former Clippers coach, Dave Severns. I was like, this team, like, I hope they're bringing, or I thought, what did I say? I hope this is the death of small ball. Yes. And people get back to a little bit more traditional lineups. I like it, and defensively they look fantastic.
Well,
does Denver have a chance? Let's start there. Does Denver have a chance? Because your guy is hoping Denver comes back and wins this whole thing.
Of course, he's hoping that. But what you said last night about us maybe moving back to the traditional lineups. And not just moving back to the traditional lineups, Tone. We're moving back to that brand of basketball. And moving back to that brand of basketball, which you really had to show your skill set and play through physicality. Not illegal physicality, not the bad boy Pistons where we're knocking you over the head. No, we're not talking about that. But you actually had to play through physicality. I think that we're moving back toward that. And because of that, does Denver have a chance? Well, of course, the series isn't over. They still do have a chance. Tone, I'm not sure if we're coming back to Denver though. I don't. I don't think we're
you
coming
call
back
a
to
sweep?
Denver. I don't think we're coming back to Denver. And the reason why I feel like that, Tone, I watched Jamal Murray throw a towel and a heat pack on the floor at the ref, by the way, and it ended up on the floor. I've never seen him that flustered. And that's all due to what Minnesota has done defensively. All of that is due to what Minnesota has done.
Part of it's the injury, and yes, 90% of it, though, is the defensive throw.
I think that's largely due to what Minnesota has done to him defensively. When he crosses half court, they jump him. They get him in that corner, that high corner, and and remember, when you trapping a guy, there aren't hands and beating down on him. No, it's just keeping your hands high, keeping your hands busy, and bodying him up. Not a foul, not illegal.
Keep your feet moving and block those passing lanes. That's defense.
And that's all it is. Now, Jamal Murray, not just Jamal Murray, but I feel like this Denver Nugget team, I think they're so used to being finessed. I feel like they're so used to them being able to just do whatever they want to do. And the fact that Minnesota completely took them out of that, I think that threw a monkey wrench in who they were, Tone. You're talking about a Denver team who their offense is predicated on movement, fluidity, passing. When you have a team in Minnesota that throws you off of that, where now Jamal Murray is trying to run Jamal Murray is running his pick and pop action with Joker, but he can't do it because why? Because when he runs that pick and roll, when he's running off that, and Anthony Edwards is stuck to his hip, or Jaden McDaniels is stuck to his hip and chasing him off of that screen, and now he's 10 feet away from Joker, and he's throwing the ball back to Joker only to get it back with 7 seconds left on the shot clock. And I don't really have a lot of time to get back in our action. Because I don't have a lot of time to get back in our action, more times than not, I'm going to take a bad shot. I love the fact that Denver has been taken completely out of their offense. Minnesota has sped up their offense with their defense, and Anthony Edwards looks like the premier guard of the league. Those shots that he's making now, he wasn't making those mid-range shots. Not mid-range, I'm sorry. Those pull-up threes, the mid-range, he wasn't making that as much as he is now, especially in the meat and potatoes of the game. He wasn't doing that nearly as much as he's doing it now, and it just looks so much better. And because it looks so much better, this team just looks like they're better. Now, I'm not really sure, Tone, what exactly the scheme is going to be moving forward with Denver, what they can do, because, again, Jamal Murray is beat up. So him coming off that screen and roll, he can't burst away like he does because that calf injury seems to be hampering him. So with that being said, KCP is beat up. That ankle injury is bothering him. So they speed the game up. They play defensively. They attack the glass with Joker on the glass. They attack the glass. I'm not sure what exactly Denver can do to slow these dudes down. Tone, I'm not sure we coming back to Denver.
We talk a lot about matchups. We
Yep.
talk a lot about matchups. And this is the worst team for Denver to face because they have the one thing that I don't want to call it their kryptonite, but it's one thing that, Jokic had 7 turnovers. Very uncharacteristic. And I have to say that length and that defense that they can throw multiple guys at him and into space. I think we're going to look back at this in 10 years. And when they're like, man, Denver's run. And then there was this Minnesota and it was like, if they don't face them, they're good. This is the bad matchup because my point about small ball, all these other teams, you got a 6'9", whoever playing center. Well, Jokic is free to look, over you and make all those ridiculous passes. If you don't look, even against 7-footers, he can make those passes. But when you got someone who he's got, 4 or 5 inches on, forget about it. He is way too good. He is way too skilled as a playmaker, as a passer, to give him any advantage. And when you have smaller guys on him, forget it. So I think they win 1 in Minnesota. I think they win 1 back at Denver, and I think I think we go 6. But I still think. Listen, I've told you since the beginning of the playoffs, I'm going with Minnesota right through to the finals. So I'm not going to change my pick now. I look pretty good right now, but I'm going to say I don't think Denver just goes down without a fight. I think they find a way, and it might be game 4. It might not even be game 3. It's really hard to sweep a team. Right, to beat them 4 times in a row in the playoffs, especially the defending champs, although it has happened. Did the Lakers win or lose? No, they lost in the final that year before they got swept. But it's still it's difficult to sweep a defending champ. So now injuries might play a role. But
your Lakers in 11, they won the championship the year before in Dallas swept.
Was it? Yeah.
Yes, they did.
Hey, listen, you go to the finals 3 years in a row, you get tired.
Say Chicago swept the Heat in 07 in the first round. The Bulls swept Detroit. So it happened.
After they won, you're right. You get tired.
But back to your point, Cole.
It's tough to do.
Absolutely.
So I think they get 1.
You brought up a really interesting point about the matchups. So if the Lakers lose to New Orleans, they end up playing Oklahoma City in round 1. I think they're still in the playoffs. I do.
So do I.
I think that they're still in the playoffs. I want you to rewind the clock back, Tone, because this is what I'm talking about when I say matchups are everything. And teams duck smoke. Teams duck smoke all the time. Yes, they do.
No, I'm going to fight back. Stop saying duck smoke.
Yes, they do, Tone.
They are cerebral with their matchups.
So I'm smart. That doesn't mean that.
Yes.
Because I'm smart, that doesn't mean I'm not ducking you. I'm just ducking you in a smart way.
Listen. If I'm walking up and a fight's about brewing, and I got Mike Tyson Prime on the right, and I got Steve Urkel on the left, I'm cerebral when I walk left. That's not fucking Mike. That's smart.
That's not. But that doesn't negate the fact. That doesn't negate the fact, Tony, that you don't want nothing to do with Mike.
Well, nothing to do with him.
You don't want nothing to do with Mike, but you just doing it in a smart way.
I saw what happened to Will Smith thinking he could beat him.
You still know what it is.
Oh my God.
Prime example, Tone, we talked about this. You know how I feel about Olajuwon? The fact that they avoided the Seattle Supersonics.
Yeah.
They avoided
them. No, they couldn't get by him.
That's because they could not get by Seattle. And the fact that they had somebody else handle them, Tone, how much different are we talking about Olajuwon if they had to keep seeing Seattle? This is the same Seattle team that the next year after they won the NBA championship in back-to-back seasons, swept out of the playoffs.
They listen. Olajuwon's probably not in anyone's top 10.
Not mine. I can tell you that right now.
Not in anyone's top 10. Okay, so we both think Minnesota. You think a sweep. I'm giving Denver little credits, thinking they might come back and win a couple. The other matchup is SGA OKC.
Dallas.
It's Dallas, and Dallas, obviously Luka's now, his knee is bugging him. Should we go back? Sorry. Did you want to talk about the defensive player of the year with Rudy?
I would love to talk about the defensive player.
Let's do that before we move to the next series, because that's still in this one.
Yep.
So Minnesota's got we got the DPOY versus the MVP.
Yes, sir.
I guess defense wins championships, because
yes, it does.
you are getting swept.
Absolutely. And this goes back to what I was originally talking about, Tom, when we talked about the league MVP and why winning matters, because it validates it. We can't just give the league MVP to anybody, because what it looks like is it looks empty. Because anybody, like when you're on a bad team and you leading the team in score, well, somebody got to lead a bad team in score. Somebody got to lead a bad team in rebounding. But the notion that defense wins championships, defense is what wins. Defense and rebounding is what wins. Well, I can't give the defensive player of the year to a player who's on a team that's terrible defensively, even though he's doing well.
You leave Wemby alone. Leave Wemby out of this.
Even and what I'm bringing up that point, Tone, because I feel like what people are doing, people are trying to make him something that he's not yet.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that he's not going to be that. They're trying to make him something that he's not yet. And the reason why they're doing that is because he was the #1 overall pick. He's the next thing, and they want to make sure that they're right with this by giving him the defensive player of the year, because that validates what we think about him. He's on his way to being the greatest, and when in reality, he is on his way to being that, just not right now. That's all. When you think about what the Minnesota Timberwolves did when trading for Rudy Gobert, Tone, you were around. I heard you. I heard everybody. This was a terrible trade. Give up 4 first-round picks. Not just give up 4 first-round picks. The Minnesota Timberwolves are trading Rudy Gobert. The Utah Jazz are trading Rudy Gobert in their division. What are you guys thinking? What are you guys doing this with all of these first-round picks? I thought it was a great trade. I felt like he made them better because he gave them the toughness that they didn't have. He gave them the rebounding that they didn't have. He gave them the paint presence that they didn't have. We didn't know who Jaden McDaniels was yet. We didn't know who he was. We didn't know Anthony Edwards was going to be this good as a defender. He made Cat better as a defender. All of these things, Neil Alexander Walker, he made him better.
Oh, I like it.
All of these, and I think a lot of that has to do with him being Canadian, but I digress. I digress, because I don't know if you guys know it, Tone is Canadian. But all of these things matter in being a great defender. Now, I keep hearing the logic of, well, if Wemby moved to Minnesota, he was on that Minnesota team. Well, wait a minute. Again, I think a lot of what Wemby has done, I feel like a lot of what Wemby has done is the fact that he's just bigger and stronger, and he's got a 25-foot wingspan. I think that once he actually learns how to play basketball, he learns how to play at the pro level, he learns how to play defense, don't forget it.
But what you're doing, though, is saying, I'm going to punish Wemby because his team can't play defense. And there's a lot of people who get mad about, especially one player who's never won a DPOY, when if you look at the team, there's a reason the other person won it. And it happens quite often. It's the best defensive player statistically, both using regular stats and advanced stats, on the best defensive team. That's who they've always given the defensive player of the year to.
Sure.
So I don't want to use fair. I don't want to use the word fair, because life isn't fair. But basically, he's being punished because he's on a bad defensive team. Forget the fact that he's a rookie. Forget that for a second. If there was just a player that did what he did this season, right, forget the name, forget how many years in the league.
Right.
If everyone was anonymized, right, the only knock on him is that his team defensive rank was low. I think they were 23rd. That's the only knock on his defense. Right? That's the only knock on his defense.
Well, doesn't it go back to the original logic, Tone, that when you're doing what you're doing on a bad team, it's almost empty? And I don't like the word punish. And the reason why I don't like the word punish is because you aren't good enough. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying
Well,
is
let me ask you this. Let me put it to different perspective, because we've talked about this before, so I don't want to go too long into it. But let me ask you this.
well,
So next year I get drafted, as you know, and I drop 50 a game, but my team wins 16 games. Am I getting any MVP votes?
no.
I drop 50 a game. I'm not getting one MVP vote.
No. Because winning matters, Tone. And again, I can't say this enough. The reason why the reason these awards are what they are is because the reason why these awards are what they are because winning validates them. So to your point, Tone, you talk about what Wemby did. I don't know if you noticed, Tone, but Shaq had almost 300 blocks as a rookie. He had almost 300 blocks as a rookie. Not only did he have almost 300 blocks as a rookie, Manute Bol led the league in blocks as a rookie. Led the league in blocks. He finished second in Defensive Player of the Year. After that, he didn't finish higher than fourth. So what I don't want to do with Wemby is I don't want to overrate him, but not only do I not want to overrate him, I don't want to discount what he's doing. And what he's doing is he's going to get better. And with him getting better, that's going to make the league even better. So I feel like Wemby and Evan Mobley are going to be the class of frontline defenders. I feel like they're going to be the class of frontline defenders in the NBA for the next decade. I look at Wemby and I look at Evan Mobley like I looked at Olajuwon and David Robinson. I never felt like David Robinson was a better defender than Olajuwon, but I do felt like he played at that level. I always felt like I didn't think he was a better defender, but what I don't want to do also, and you just brought up the point, I don't want to minimize, not minimize, that's not the word I'm looking for. I don't want to discount what Rudy did and the fact that these other guys like Scottie Pippen, like Tim Duncan, the fact that they didn't win the Defensive Player of the Year, that doesn't minimize how good they were defensively because they played at that level. But the fact that Rudy has been playing at that level, this is the fourth time in 7 years, Stone, that he's won it. That's almost every other year he's winning the Defensive Player of the Year. That means that he's playing at that level just about every year. So because he's playing at that level just about every year, I think that validates him as a generational defender, number one. Number two, how much better that Minnesota team is off the strength of his defense. I can't say that, if I took Wemby and I put Wemby on the Minnesota Timberwolves, well, does Wemby understand defensive schemes? Does he know how to play without fouling? How many games has Wemby played in this season where he didn't foul out? How many times has he gotten beaten? How many times he got beat in coverages? Does he understand coverages yet? I don't think he's there yet. I do think he's going to get there. And what I don't want to do, Tone, is I'm not going to punish him for being young. No, you're not being punished because you're still there, right? You're still in the league and you're still playing at a high level. I just feel like you're not where everybody thinks you're not where everybody thinks you are yet. You absolutely are going to be there, though.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair. Before we jump to the next series, one more thing about Denver, but let's make it quick because we've been talking about this series for a long time. Jamal Murray last year, outside of a club in Phoenix, told our guy Tony Styles, who hosts the show Hoopstorians Tuesday nights at 10 p.m., moving to 1 day a week for a little while. Teams that are down 0-2 suck because they were up 2-0 on Phoenix at the time. How do you think he feels about that statement today?
Probably because they do suck.
Maybe he agrees.
Yes, I 100% agree with him because Minnesota makes them look like they suck. I'm watching this dude look into the crowd with his father in the crowd going, what am I supposed to do? That sounds like somebody that's getting roughed up. That's what that sounds like to me. Sounds like somebody that's getting roughed up and has no answers. Because you have no answers, this could very well be a short series. Tone, I don't know if we're coming back to Denver. That's all I got to say about that.
Okay. Hey, good. Let Minnesota get some rest. So the other series, SGA and OKC, taking on Luka with a bad knee and Kyrie, who I didn't even think were going to make it to the second round. That's what I get for believing in the Buffalo Braves. Does Dallas have a chance in this series, especially considering Luka looks like he is like in pain and struggling to play? Can Kyrie like just go all Kyrie on him and save them, or are they done?
I thought it was me, Tone. Like watching Luka, I feel like he's slowing them down. I do. When I watch them in transition, I feel like he's slowing them down. Like they can't really get out and run like they normally do. They don't get the opportunities in transition like they normally do because Luka, not only on offense, but on defense, he's already deficient defensively. But now it's almost like they specifically hunt him. They specifically go after him. And they go after him early and often. No matter who is covering Luka, it reminds me.
Well, but you know who's covering most of the time, right?
I know Lou Dort is covering.
It's my guy. It's my guy from Canada.
I know Lou Dort is covering him.
Lou Dort.
Yes.
We got a lot of Canadians right now.
Yes, we do. SGA, Lou Dort, Jamal Murray, sure. And I hate to bring this up, Tone, but I remember specifically in the '89 finals where Chuck Daly made a conscious effort to go after Magic. I don't care what we running, Joe. Go after him. Doesn't make a difference what we running, where we are. Go after him. Do not let him off the hook. I feel like they're doing that with Luka. I feel like this, and it doesn't help that Luka's dragging that leg, and they try to put him in different spaces where they put Luka in the post. They try to put him in the mid post. They try to get the ball to Kyrie Irving and let him handle the ball a little bit more. That way, that can take some of the pressure off Luka. But they rely on Luka so much offensively. This is why I had a problem, Tone, earlier in the season when you and I had this conversation where he was going 39, 18, and 14. This is why I had that problem because I'm thinking, why does he have to do so much? The reason why I'm thinking that is because of times like this where now we're in a space where because he has to do so much and because now he's breaking down, now that takes away from the rest of these dudes because they rely so much on him to get their offense. Gafford, PJ Washington. Irv is probably the only one who doesn't need Luka to get him offense. But the rest of those dudes, Exum, Green, and they don't have Maxi Kleber. They don't have him. But the rest of those dudes, they so rely on Luka to get him up, to get their offense. Because they rely on him and because he's ailing the way he is, I think that I actually picked Dallas to win in 6. But that Oklahoma City team, Tone, they look fresher. They look livelier. They look more in sync. They don't look slow. I might be wrong on this. I'm going to stick with Dallas because I said Dallas in 6, and I don't want to flip flop. But I might be wrong with this. I'm not saying that I am, but I might be wrong with this.
Well, I'm gonna stick with OKC. And I think the health again. I didn't have Dallas being here, so good for them. Kyrie's been a model citizen this year. But I think their health, which is obvious, and I still think they're a piece away. But this Luka and Kyrie thing might actually work. Kyrie is still young enough to be, I can't believe I'm gonna say this, to be the veteran next to young Luka. Luka's still young.
Yes.
Right? Like we think he's been in the league for 10 years and he's 30 years old. He's not. He's still young. So
25, that's how old Luka is, I think.
20 is it 25?
24.
I agree. I think you're right. I think 25.
Something like that. Mm-hmm. And Tone, is it ridiculous? I know this sounds crazy, Tone, but is it ridiculous to think that Herb is the vet? I mean, he's been in the league 12 years. So
it's not ridiculous, but it is interesting to view him as the mature vet that's gonna be able to put his arm around guys and say, hey. But you know what? I think listen. I love having fun with stuff that Kyrie has done and said. I do go back and watch them sometimes, and I think he was just like messing with people a little bit because they wanted him to be this kind of villain, and he just embraced it. I think he believes in what he believes strongly, and I don't think there's. I think I appreciate someone who stands up for what they believe in, right? Like you know what they say: if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for everything. Yeah. So I think he was very much. Look, he said some crazy things, but I also think he was a little bit misunderstood. And I think this is maybe this is a new Kyrie. So, I hope it works out because even Coach said last night, right? Man, he's maybe the most skilled we've ever seen with a basketball in his hand.
Yes, he is.
And I love that because people say he's the most skilled player ever. And I'm like, whoa, most skilled we've seen with the basketball. One of, if not the, I can get with that. So I'm going to transition quickly.
Yep.
Because I think this is hilarious. And I'm going to give you a couple of these because the topic of today's show is people be tripping. They crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Take you pick whichever one you want. But first, before I do that, let me say to our friend here, I think his name is Matrell. Chill and Fluent, I have a Miami Heat show. How can I get you guys on the podcast? You can hit me up at anthonyk@sportsfluent.com. But also, we're going to send the link at the end of the show, and you can jump on this one and ask us what you want to hear. You're not going to like what I have to say. I'll tell you right now about where the Miami Heat go from here. But feel free. Actually, we're going to get to the Miami Heat here in a second, so you should pop on. And then we have a super chat from Mello Williams. Thank you, Mello. Do you feel like this is a makeup MVP for Jokic from last year's travesty?
Well, wait a minute, Tone. This is the problem that I'm having. Okay, it wasn't a travesty. No, it was not a travesty. We're talking about, what up, young fella? What's going on, brother? Go to bed.
He's going to bed. He's not feeling good.
Go to bed, man. Go to bed. Okay, first of all, Tone.
Yeah, travesty's
I'm 100% confident that Embiid led the league in scoring last year, and I think he was like 30-10, 33-10 last year. And I think Philly finished third in the league. Hello, dear. How are you? Go to bed. Night.
It's about that time.
Yes, it is, ladies and gentlemen. Like we are a family show. Yes, we are.
Absolutely.
We are
Dad Fluent and Uncle Chill.
Yes, sir. We are a family show.
Don't call him Unc for nothing. Just putting it out there.
I'm actually that. So
they don't know. They don't know.
Yeah, I am actually that. So, but I mean, he was 33-10 last year. He's the first guy since Shaq to lead the league in scoring at the 5 spot. So, I mean, I think they finished in the top 3 in the East last year. So it wasn't like they gave it to a dude who he was okay. No, Joel Embiid was awesome. But I feel like the reason why they didn't do it, and we had this conversation about 20 minutes ago, I feel like the reason why they didn't do it is because there was going to be some uncomfortable conversations that we were going to have if Joker won the league MVP for 3 years in a row. And there were people who were not prepared to have those conversations, so they didn't do it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. So let's go into our they tripping. Time on the Met Gala red carpet. This is obviously Ben Simmons, 210 minutes. Time on an NBA court in 2024, 165 minutes.
First of all, that outfit is super whack. Okay.
What do you mean? He got the Flavor Flav clock.
No, I'm good.
Or is that a briefcase? I might be a briefcase.
First of all, at 6'10", 6'11", I understand that I do understand that it's the gala.
It's a briefcase.
You doing like with the coat, with it looked like you got like 4 layers of clothes on with that. Even though it's the overcoat plus the suit.
It's a very sure. All he needs is a pipe and a weird hat. He's a very Sherlock Holmes kind of look to me.
That's exactly what I was going to say. He kind of got the Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, and then too bad if the clock was on a chain and he was like, Flavor Flav is son, public enemy number 1. Then I would be feeling it. I'd be. All right, that's enough of him. Okay, no, it actually I feel. That's enough for him. That's enough.
I want Ben Simmons. Is that back that bad? Is his career over, Tone?
Did it start?
Well, yeah, it did. 100%. He was an All-Pro. He was an All-Star a number of years. He was an All-League defender. Yeah, absolutely, it did.
Okay.
Is that back that bad? What's going on,
man? I'll give you some more Flavor Flav. Can't trust it. Can't trust it.
Maybe.
I don't believe him.
You never believed in him, Tone. You never did.
Never. Ben Simmons, I don't believe you. You need more people. I don't believe him. I don't believe him.
Damn.
I think he happened to be good at basketball. And so he played basketball and got his money and didn't want to play basketball.
You always was one of those guys, Tone, who thought that he loved what came with basketball more than he actually loved the game.
Yes.
You always felt like that about him.
And I feel like my thoughts have been validated year after year after year. Now, if it turns out that every part of his body is broken and whatever, okay. But, like, watch. Derrick Rose wins an MVP. Mm-hmm. Has a horrific injury.
Yep.
He could have just collected his money and relaxed. He didn't. He did everything in his power to get back on that basketball court. And even if it meant a lesser role, a whole different game, that's the love of basketball. As much as I pick on Kevin Durant for a lot of things, what's the one thing I always applaud him for? That dude loves playing ball. That dude, like, and that's the kinds of guys I want in the league. People don't understand when I say this because it's tough. And I'm not picking up people who've never played basketball. I'm not. What I'm saying is these are the things that I say. It's tough if you've never gone through it to say, I want someone who wants, like, if it's close, like not like this, if it's close, I want the guy who might be less skilled, not as good, but wants it, like 100% wants it, over the guy that's more skilled, more talented, but just like does it. You know what I mean? Like, I never want that guy because I don't know what I'm getting from them. Next up on our stage, my good friend George Carl, who keeps promising to come on the show. The Lakers will be more successful going forward when they acknowledge the only championship they won since Phil left doesn't count.
Why doesn't it count?
That's suspicious.
That's weird. I've never understood that logic. Why doesn't it count? So if that championship doesn't count, the 1 in 11-12 doesn't count when we had the short season, 1 in 1998-99 when they won in San Antonio, that one doesn't count. I don't understand that. We had a season in the 2019-2020 season. It got cut short. It didn't get cut short. Let me rephrase that, Tone. It got delayed, and then we got back to it. It got delayed, and then we got back to it. But I'm not lessening what those guys did because, sure, they didn't have to play in front of 20,000 people because we had a pandemic. But they still went out there and played. And the fact that it doesn't count, when you look in the record books in 2019, 2020, it's gonna read NBA champion Los Angeles Lakers. 100%.
A lot of people, I'm not of this belief, but I'll play the other side just to be devil's advocate. For the record, I know people are going to clip after I say this, but I believe it absolutely counts 100% because everybody went through the same situation. So it's not like there was different. But that being said, I'm playing devil's advocate. This, unlike 11-12, unlike 98-99, those seasons started late because of a lockout or a strike, whatever. They played 60 plus games and then played a regular playoff. Everything about that season, with the exception of you missed the first 15 to 18, whatever it was, games, everything else was the same. Everything, once the season got started, they played almost 70 games and then a regular playoff, just as always. With this particular one, so why George Carl's, I believe, is saying this one doesn't count is you played a partial season. You stopped. You had months off. You reset the clock. You started. How many games did they play when they came back from COVID? Was it 15 or 20?
Yeah, I think 22 games.
Okay, 22 games. And then you played in a makeshift arena without any fans, without any travel. And although I agree, no, I'm playing devil's advocate. So it was not the same. The reason it wasn't the same is you basically had the summer off and started a new season. And now we can actually say it was kind of like winning the in-season tournament. It was different, right? We played 20 games, and they were just the best after that first 20 games because they weren't dealing with injuries. They weren't dealing with travel. They weren't all of those. They played 8 games. Armand Smith said they played 8 games.
That's right, they did, because Phoenix went 8-0 in the bubble. That's correct, Armand.
Okay, Armand, thank you for so very, very different. So they played a preseason and then went right into the NBA playoffs where they didn't have to travel. So I can see where, if I was having to make that case, you could say this was not like those other lockout seasons, because it was, you basically summer off and you came back preseason and you went right into the playoffs. So I don't believe that. I'm saying that the case for this one could be made. The case for this one could be made more so than the other ones. That being said, I'm still mad at the Lakers because you won it, and what you should have done was run it back.
Mm-hmm.
Right? One, to prove, hey, that wasn't a fluke because we played a weird, 2 months off, then 8 games, and then we won basically an in-season tournament.
Right.
But when people say, here's the one thing though, I will fight back on. I say it counts, but I will not stand for anyone saying it was the toughest ring to win ever.
No,
the reason why I can't stand that is because you had 2 months off. You only played 8 games, and then you didn't have to travel. You didn't have to deal with rowdy fans. You didn't have to deal with getting tickets for your mother's, cousins, brothers, sisters-in-law's best friend. Like, people don't realize, and you know this. I'm sure.
Very
I don't know.
stressful.
I don't know.
Very, very stressful, Tone.
I don't know if Shaq ever told you any stories about people bugging for tickets.
Oh, I was there, Tone. It was very stressful.
Always asking for stuff, which is why we appreciate you never asked for. I told you I'd ask.
What's his name? I don't know if you remember. What's the rapper dude? Juvenile. Like he never. I don't mean Juvenile specifically, but Shaq never really had a problem with giving me a ticket or 2 tickets. He's like, Jermaine, like, this dude asked me for like 10 tickets.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah. You got to roll at least 10 deep.
I need 10 tickets. Like, what? Come on, man. I ain't got 10 tickets. No, I don't.
They feel like they just hold tickets for every player.
Now to your point, Tone, I do have to combat that off the strength that, okay, we had 2 months off, but we wasn't on vacation. Number one, we were locked in. That's number one.
You were on vacation.
No, well, I was not on vacation. The season was.
I love being locked up.
The season was actually still going on because the season wasn't over. We had to get back to work. Unlike other guys like James, like Chris Paul, like Damian Lillard, I don't have a basketball court in my house, so I still have to get to work. But I don't have access to that. LA Fitness, the facility with the Clippers, the facility with the Milwaukee Bucks, the facility with the Orlando Magic, it's closed.
You ever seen Rocky IV?
Right. So guess what? Now I got to go into the
Rocky IV.
Right. I got to go into the mountains and I got to run.
It's better.
I got to do chin-ups in a barn. That's what I got to do. Right. I got to do chin-ups in a barn. I'm basically lifting a staple. That's what I'm doing because I don't have access to the stuff that LeBron James or Chris Paul or Damian Lillard or all the great players that are making way more money than I am have access to. You know, LA Fitness is closed. The YMCA is closed. I don't have that. And on top of that, I'm locked in the house for 2 months. I can't go anywhere. I can't do anything. Why? Because we got a pandemic going on. And then I got to get back to work.
I loved it.
And then I got to get back to work, Tone. There's a reason why these guys came back and some of them got hurt immediately because there really wasn't much that I could do.
Right. But again, the point is, though, 8 games, no travel, no getting 10 tickets for Juvenile. Not all the teams were there. There's a lot to say. My point is, I think, like I said, legit title, but the hardest one to win, I can't agree with that. You're telling me that it wasn't harder for Hakeem Olajuwon in '95 to be the underdog on the road every single series and face an MVP every single round and beat them all? That wasn't harder than going to Disney?
As a 6 seed.
I would say Olajuwon had a much tougher road. No offense to the Lakers. You know how I feel. I love my Lakers. But that was tougher than hanging out at Disney. Sure. All right. That being said, I think we got one more. There's a video one, but I'm going to do it after we do the East because we talked about the West, everything going on in the West. We did not talk about the East. This one is interesting. There's 2 more, but this one's going to be quick because we agree on this one. I know we agree on this one. It's a baby, bro. It's going to be there when you get back. Gilbert Arenas basically telling Rudy Gobert, don't skip game 2 to see your damn baby's birth because it's going to be there when you get back. How many kids does Gilbert Arenas have?
I think he has 3. Yeah. I think he's got 3 kids.
I would have said he had none based on that, but okay.
Yeah, of course. And this is how many Rudy has.
That's Rudy's first? You don't forget your first?
I think that's his first kid. Yes. And I'm going to be there for that.
I'm happy that I had both at the same time because I would have favored the first 1,000%.
Tone, it was 5:30 in the morning when my ex shakes me to tell me that she think her water broke. I jump up like the house was on fire. I don't know. I'm thinking the baby coming right now because I ain't got no kids. So I'm thinking the baby's coming right now. So we get up, bring all our stuff, bring everything because she got a bag packed, take it to the hospital. But before we do that, Tone, my daughter was born in December. I'm in college. It's in the middle of basketball season. So at 5:30 in the morning, I got to pick up the telephone and I got to call coach. Coach, I'm on my way to the hospital. And he understands.
Yeah.
Okay, you're on your way to the hospital. So the fellas on the team, I had a couple of guys. I think one of the guys, Eric was his name. He said to the guys like, yo, where's Jermaine at? And my man Pops said to him, Roger said to him, where the hell you think he is? He at the hospital. You think he's just not going to show up today? When have you ever known him not to show up? So he's at the hospital. His lady's having a baby. So I had no problem, even if it's the playoffs, I had no problem with what Rudy did. It's his firstborn kid. I want to experience that. I want to be there for that. So, yeah, for you to say that it's a baby, you can't minimize somebody's experience of having their first child. That's nonsense. Hell no.
Only Gil.
Only Gil.
Only Gil would say that one. So okay, we both agree. I think that was pretty. I look. I'll say this: it was the NBA Finals. I might feel different.
I think he would play.
If it was the NBA Finals, I'd feel. If they were down 0-1, I'd feel different.
I think he would have played, John. To be honest with you, I don't think he would have missed that. I think he would.
I think this being the second round, they were up 1-0. They already took home court advantage away. I'm like, okay, cool, go. But there's certain instances where, yeah, maybe.
A prime example would be your man that plays for the Rams, Vance Jefferson.
Van Jefferson?
His wife is pregnant. They're in the bowl game. His wife tells the Rams staff, because she's going to the hospital, don't say anything to him until after the game is over. Don't tell him, because if you tell him, you're going to screw him up. So don't tell him anything until after the game is over. And they waited till after the game was over to tell him, yo, your wife's in the hospital. She went into labor. As opposed to if they said something to him, yo, your wife went into labor, even though he already had 2 kids, your wife went into labor, he probably would have flipped out like, yo, we got to go. No, you don't.
That's a good woman right there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's a keeper. All right, the next one. So this is where Matrell, you guys might want to jump in because you're not gonna like this. If you're not on the court playing, you should keep your mouth shut. Pat Riley.
Okay, first of all, Tone, to add some context to it. So Jimmy Butler, he said, quote, if I was playing, Boston would be home. The Knicks would be gone. Josh Hart, who? Now, first of all, you weren't playing. That's number one. We could start and stop the conversation with that right there. You weren't playing. So because you weren't playing, zip it up. Because that's coming from the guy who only answers to the dude who signs the checks. So he could say that. That's number one. Number two, Jimmy Butler showed up in Miami in the 2019-2020 season. He was 29 years old, Tom. So in the 5 years that he's been in Miami, he's been an All-Pro 3 times. He's been an All-League defender once. He's been to the NBA Finals twice. He's been to the Conference Championship 3 times. And he'll be 35 on opening night next season. Tony, they've gotten everything that they're going to get out of him. Everything. Now he's looking for an extension. And that extension, the price tag on that extension is about $113 million. If you think that he let Dwayne Wade walk out the front door, you think he's going to give you $113 million over the next 2 years, you, my good man, are bugging out. Because he's not doing that for you. If he let Dwayne Wade walk out the front door, even though Pat Riley said, quote, I made a mistake the way I handled Dwayne Wade's contract negotiations. And Dwayne Wade, they're going to build a statue of him outside the arena. You aren't nearly as loved as Dwayne Wade. But for you to think that they're going to handle you that way, no. But Pat Riley is 100% right.
Is it safe to say that with Jimmy, Miami, and I'm stealing this from Bubba G Cuts because I think he's right. Is it safe to say with Jimmy, Miami has exceeded expectations, and with Dwayne Wade, I'm adding this part on, they maybe met or did not meet expectations?
Well, okay, sure. We all saw that, not 1, not 2, not 3. We all saw that. Sure, 100% we did see that. But with Jimmy Butler, Tone, you are the epitome of, as a businessman, get out while the getting's good.
A year early, better than a year late.
Get out while the getting's good. Because the last thing that you want to do, you don't want to get out while the getting's bad. Because if you try to get out while the getting's bad, it's going to get worse. So I feel like they got everything that they were going to get out of Jimmy Butler. If you want to extend him, which I think that they will, that price tag has to come down. Because I
don't think they will. I think they look at this roster and they realize it's not good. Mm-hmm. This roster's not good, right? You got Jimmy, who plays in the playoffs. Now, not this year, he was hurt, but typically shows up in the playoffs, but not really for the regular season. And like you mentioned, his age. Mm-hmm. You got Bam, who we both agree has been playing at the wrong position his entire damn career. You got Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero, who I hate both. Unless they're coming off the bench for 15 minutes, I hate them both. And that's about all you got. There's another kid there actually too that might be good, but
Robinson, Jokic, who else?
Yeah, but it's not good. It's not a team that can compete, and I think they far exceeded expectations last year for sure, and back down to reality this year. So if I'm them, I'm not. Yeah, JJJ, that's the kid. If I'm the Heat, I'm like, no, am I picking Bam and building around Bam? Okay, then that's what I'm doing. Everybody else is gone. Am I moving on from Bam and completely figuring it out again? Terry Rozier, my friend, is not the answer to anyone's question. So that's where I'm just like, this is not a team that's competing for an NBA championship. And if you're Pat Riley and the Heat culture and we compete for chips and you're not there. No. So you can't do the same thing and expect different results. So I think there's gonna be wholesale changes, and if not, Miami Heat fans are gonna be disappointed for the next coming years because they are not good enough to compete with Boston. They are not good enough to compete with Milwaukee. They are not good enough to compete with the Knicks. Like, I never thought I'd ever say that. They're not good enough at this point to compete with the Knicks.
I know that's crazy.
It does. I feel crazy saying it.
Quick side note, Tone. Jalen Brunson done for the night.
No.
Yes, finished.
Injured?
Yes, he's hurt.
Oh no!
It looks like a groin injury, and it looks bad. Like he acts out of the game.
Right foot.
Yeah, he's done for the night. Oh, so it's his foot. I thought it was his groin because he was holding his groin.
ESPN says right foot, but you know.
Yeah, he's done for the night. But anyway, back to what you were talking about with the Miami Heat. Pat Riley is a stickler for exhausting rosters. He's a stickler for that. 100%. He did it with the Miami Heat when they had Tim Hardaway, when they had Dan Marley, when they had Alonzo Mourning. That group kind of phased out, and then he started over when he got Eddie Jones. Then they got Dwayne Wade, and he traded for Shaq. Then that roster, he got a championship out of them. Then that fizzled out. Then he still had Dwayne Wade, and he was trying to piece things together with Mario Chalmers. Enter James, enter Chris Bosh, and now he's piecing that thing together. But he's always had talent there. With this group right here, I feel like you've exhausted all the talent that you've had. Not only have you exhausted all the talent that you had, Tone, I'm going to be honest with you. Not that I'm not always honest with you, but I'm going to be honest with you. Jimmy Butler says, quote, we beat Miami and we handle New York. Tone, in that series, Game 1, they're down 34 at one point. Game 3, they're down 29. Game 4, they're down 28. Game 5, they're down 38. That's an average margin of 34 a game. Buckets is telling me that insert him in the lineup, not only do we erase that deficit, we beat this team. So if that's true, Tone, you got to believe this dude is the best player on the planet. You have to believe that. There's no way that you can deny that Jimmy Butler.
If he erases that, absolutely, and that's my point. Is I think they are at best they're the 8th seed in the East, and so when you know that, you need to make. Listen, I'm going to tell you something right now, and you can record it, write it down, take a picture. I don't give a. I think you're going to see Damian Lillard in Miami next year.
So Milwaukee was a pit stop.
I think Milwaukee realized this isn't going to work. as good as, and listen, I give Dame credit. I think he played well.
Yep.
I think they fail fast and they realize this isn't going to work. He's on. I'll be honest. I don't care what he says. I don't think he's happy there anyways.
You don't think so?
I don't think he's happy there. No, he does. You don't make that lonely comment, right? Like that.
Yeah.
That's his nice way of saying, get me the F out of here.
This place kind of sucks, yo.
So don't be now. They're gonna have to. You're gonna love this. They're gonna have to get a third team involved.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do that.
But I can see Dame to Miami, Jimmy elsewhere, Milwaukee gets whatever. That's what I could see happening, and I kind of like the Dame Bam. Now let's rebuild around some of those, like that duo for the next 3 years, because Dame's getting up there too in terms of age.
Right.
I feel better about that. I feel better about that than I do with Jimmy.
I don't think Jimmy,
I'm a huge fan of Jimmy.
Right. And I don't think Jimmy Butler I don't think he's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. I think that he has, let me find out what his contract situation is, Tone. Currently, with the Miami Heat, his contract, yeah, he's got a player option. No, I'm sorry. He's got 3 more years left on his deal. So he's got this year that's already on. He's on the books next year, and he's got a player option in 25, 26. So he's got 1 more year left on his deal after this year.
There you go. So there you go. There's some value there. So you put Dame next to Bam. You get him a big so that Bam can move to the 4. Hero, Jamie. Do they call him Jamie or Hemi? I'm going to call him Jaime. Jaime Jr. I can say people's names. I like it better than what they have today, but I don't like the roster set up the way it is today.
If you look at this Miami Heat team, what exactly is it that they're missing? Because I feel like we're in peak Bam years. So I got the 20-10 All-Pro defender that I thought Bam was going to be. So I got that. So that's one of my cornerstones. I heard Udonis Haslem say something. When he said it, everybody was shocked and everybody was in agreement. But when I said I think Tyler Hero is a great rotation player. I think that he is great coming off the bench. I do not like him as a starter. I think that he's a great 25, 30-minute rotation guy who will be one of the better rotation players in the league for a long time. But when Udonis Haslem says it, because he works for the Miami Heat, well, you know what? That's not actually a bad idea.
The only reason he's not a rotation player is because they had to pay him starter money.
Yeah, they did.
Let's be honest. He is he should be up for 6th man of the year every single year.
Well, Tom, what was his best season?
Every single year. Yeah, exactly.
I think that was his best year. I think that was his best year. The year. Did he win it that year, or was he up for it?
I think he was up for it. I don't think he. No, he didn't win it. He didn't win it.
Okay.
He didn't win.
But I know he was up for it.
What they need another big alongside Bam.
Yep.
And they need a distributor.
They do need to upgrade at the lead guard spot, because I'm not sure Terry Rozier is their lead guard now.
He's not. He is a scoring guard. He is a scoring guard. I don't think he's going to get Bam easy buckets.
But the way that they play, though, right? I don't think you need a primary distributor with the way the Miami Heat offense is, because their offense is a lot of ball movement, a lot of action.
So, is their offense like that because they don't have anyone who can distribute the ball? Like, is it out of choice or out of necessity?
No, it's out of choice because they run it through Bam. I think that's what it is.
I don't like that. I don't like that. Man, look, I'm right because it's not working.
It isn't working.
It didn't work.
I mean, they went to the NBA Finals last season. This year,
that was crazy.
They ran into a buzzsaw. The idea that you asking the Miami Heat to duplicate what they did last year, considering how much better Boston got. Right?
And look what they got out of a bunch of undrafted players. Like, lightning doesn't strike twice, guys.
Like 3 times or 4 times.
Yeah, that's not a common thing. I want to get to the East. We got a couple more crazy people to talk about, but 2 more to be exact. But let's get to the East. So now we've got Ori. We're going to talk about that trade in a minute. Ori, I appreciate you, buddy. Hoop Social, check them out. Indiana now looks like right now they're up 10, or they were up 10 at half. 73 points in the first half is nuts, by the way, but that's what Indiana does. It's like blitzkrieg offense. But now you've got the Knicks' best player, maybe the best player in the East. Jalen Brunson's out. Mitchell Robinson out. Julius Randle we already knew he was going to be out.
Right.
I don't know if OG Anunoby and Precious Achiuwa can take this one home.
All right.
Boston. Okay, let's stick to this. Do you think there's a chance the Knicks now, considering, depending on Brunson's injuries, though, even with him healthy, he's going to have to score 40 plus for them to win. Is this Indiana's now, especially, let's say he's hurt. This is Indiana's series, right?
Well, Tone, how many times have you said this to me? Being good is not what?
It's not good enough?
It's not good enough, man. You need some things to go your way, yo. You need some luck on your side, yo. You need some things to happen.
Absolutely.
You need some things to happen in your favor. And the idea that this New York Knicks team, with the defense that they had, with Mitchell Robinson, with Hartenstein, how good they were defensively, to lose Julius Randle, your second best rebounder, to lose Mitchell Robinson.
Can I pause you there for a second and ask you a question? Julius Randle was their second best player, right? How many teams in NBA history have made it, let alone won an NBA final, without their second best player?
The last one I remember is the Cleveland Cavaliers in 15 when Irv only played half of the Atlanta Hawks series in the East Finals. He only played 2 of the 4 games.
Oh, he made it. Sorry, but win was their second best player. Never.
You're not winning it with losing your second best player. That's not happening.
Never happening.
No, it's not.
So they already started off with the odds against them.
Yes, they did.
And then, and now continue. Now you're gonna Mitchell Robinson.
So Mitchell Robinson's now out, right? So Julius Randle was already down. Mitchell Robinson's now out. So that's the meat and potatoes of your front line, your defense, your rebounding. You kind of made up for some of it with Hartenstein, and you were able to survive it. And the reason why you were able to survive it, because Jalen Brunson was so good as a scorer. Jalen Brunson was so good as a scorer, so you made up for that with Hartenstein. You made up for that with Josh Hart. It worked. Now your scoring is now gone. So who's going to make up for that? You don't have an answer for who's going to make up for that. So now we have the Indiana Pacers, who now have some leverage, who now have some luck on their side, because I don't know how bad this injury is. Is it 1 game? Is it 2 games? Is he done for the series? We don't know. It looks like he very well could be done for the night. I'm not sure, because he didn't come back in the game. He didn't come back out of the tunnel. He didn't come back in. He didn't come back on the bench. It looks like he may be done for the night. So with that being said, once again, Indiana has gotten some luck. I don't think that they beat Milwaukee if both Giannis and Dame are healthy. I don't think that they beat this Knicks team if Julius Randle and Brunson were healthy. I don't think that they beat these guys. With that being said, this is what we may have. So he is going to play. So I'm looking at the TV right now. Tony, he did come back. He's back out there now.
That's good. That's good, but I still think it's going to be tough for them to win this series, considering. But this is what I talk about that kind of luck and bad luck for the other team, but things having to fall your way. Yep. They run into a Bucks team that's injured. They beat them. They're facing a Knicks team that is very injured, and maybe more injuries coming, unfortunately. If they beat them, right, they then let's be honest. Okay, let's quickly talk about the most lopsided series we're going to see. Boston. Is there any chance?
Well, Cleveland does have a chance off the strength that they're in it. So they have a chance. They got a snowball's chance, but they got a chance. And Donovan Mitchell is showing what I've been saying about him all season. I still think he's the best 2 guard in the game. He had a career year, and he's given Boston all they can handle. Sure, they're small in their backcourt, and that might be a problem, the fact that they go after Darius Garland, the way that they go after him. But I feel like as good as Cleveland is defensively, I don't think that they can handle Boston, because Boston has too much offensively. With Jason Tatum, who isn't shooting the basketball particularly well, but he does so many of the other things great, where he's getting on the block and he's in the post and he's passing out of the double team. He's actually playing defense. He's getting on the glass. And Mars and I actually had a conversation about this earlier, where Mars is telling me about how Jason Tatum doesn't block out, and he doesn't, and he's getting the least amount of contested rebounds. Well, I think that's largely due to how they keep Cleveland off the glass. Cleveland being off the glass, and the fact that Jared Allen isn't out there, that's another big.
Allen not being there.
That's another big. That's another defender. That's another rebounder that the Celtics don't have to contend with. And the fact that they already, even without KCP, the fact that they have everything that they have, I just don't think Cleveland has enough offensively to deal with them.
The East is so crazy that you're either going to have one of these two things happen. Okay. Boston is going to have the easiest road to the finals that any team has ever had, right? Because they get, and they should have swept, by the way, Miami.
They shouldn't have won.
They should have swept them. But we know how to beat Boston. We know how to beat Boston. Keep the game close. Keep the game close and you win. Because they're blowing you out or the game's close and you win. They cannot win close games, which does not fare well in the finals. That being said, so they get Miami without their best player.
Mm-hmm.
They get Cleveland without one of their best big, and they're just outmatched. I'm sorry, I know you like Cleveland a lot, but they're outmatched.
They are. They're overmatched. 100%. They are.
Now they're going to get Indiana, and they're right back into the NBA Finals. So it's either going to be that the easiest road to the NBA Finals, or, and this one's a little. Just walk. Let me stay with me here for a sec. Don't overrule me yet, Judge.
Just sounds like a bombshell about to drop over here.
Or Indiana gets a Giannis less hurt Dame first round. They get a banged up Knicks team second round. Porzingis battling injury, he might be out. If Brown or Tatum should happen to have any ailing little tweaks here, they get 3 injured teams, and the Pacers make the NBA final.
Make the NBA finals.
And that might be even worse than Boston breezing through it, because at least Boston was the best team, had the best record.
Wow.
The Pacers could go injury, NBA final, and that's going to be ugly to watch. That is going to, they might score 150 points in an NBA final game or have 150 scored on them.
If you say that you had, and I don't care who you are.
Lies.
If you are the Indiana Pacer fanatic in December, you had the Indiana Pacers in the NBA Finals. You are lying.
You know what I would tell you? You know what I would tell you?
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
Yes, it is. Yes, it 100% is. Because there's no way you could sell me that in January, or even when you traded for Pascal Siakam, that you were going to the NBA Finals.
Yeah, no chance.
There's no way that you could sell me that. Yo,
No.
we got a great point guard. We play great defense. No, you don't. You're at the bottom of the league in defense. No, you do not. You're one of the worst rebounding teams in the league. You score a bunch of points. That's it. You score a bunch of points. There's no way that you can sell us that you had the Indiana Pacers in the NBA Finals. And if you did have them in the finals, it was pure luck because you like this team. That's it.
Fans don't count. I'm sorry. Anytime, any vote for teams, predictions, best players, if you're a fan of that player, your vote automatically doesn't count to me.
Right.
All right. Ori, our friend Ori, who's dying to have you on. He does the show Hoop Socials, the Creators Hour, where he interviews basketball creators. Dying to have you on the show. I'm putting it out there in front of the world.
Yep.
So let him know. He'll do it whenever you have time. So Ori says, Jimmy to Atlanta, DeJounte to Milwaukee, Dame to Miami. Let's effing go.
Okay, well, first of all, the Heat are not giving
No
Jimmy
chance in
Butler to
hell.
the Hawks. Hell no. They're not giving Jimmy Butler to the Atlanta Hawks.
Well, if they're getting Dame. If they're getting Dame,
after 5 years, Tom, he's sending him west.
you think? Yeah, you think he's going to the Warriors?
Yeah, he's sending him west. I don't know how far west.
Well, he looks good in purple and gold.
Yeah, he's definitely sending him west. If there was to be a trade, I don't see him trading him in the division. That's like, I mean,
Rudy Gobert got traded in the,
and everybody thought that was the dumbest thing. Everybody thought that was the dumbest thing, and I understood what Utah was doing. They were starting over. Danny Ainge was trying to start over. I understood that. But with that being said, Todd, I'm telling you right now, man, they are not sending him to no Atlanta. No, even if it means getting Dame, I doubt it.
Okay, well, we'll see. We'll see. Tyler wants to know, where does this playoff rank compared to the ones you have all seen? So I think it means like all time.
93 playoffs were awesome. The 92 playoffs were awesome. The 2000 playoffs the 16 playoffs, the 13 playoffs. Let's see. 2009 playoffs are pretty awesome too. I don't think it's top 5 for me. No, I don't.
I would say my issue is this. I don't think we've ever been in a situation where we've had this many talented potential superstar, budding superstar. Like the talent, the skill level in the league right now is, you can't compare it. It is second to none.
Yep.
And I truly believe that. However, when I look at what's actually transpired, I've seen how many sweeps? I've seen how many 3-0s? Right? There was, I think, 3 or 4 teams were down 3-0 and won a game and then got knocked out. Like, even, you know, you had 3-4 sweeps. You had the Lakers who were down 3-0, 1-1. Like, you're seeing Boston, who's gonna not play more than 5 games, right? Again, barring any major injury, they're not going to play more than 5 games in any of these rounds. And let's be honest, not against good teams, right? Like, it's not like, because I always say, if Kobe and Shaq and the Lakers, if they had tougher, like when I say tougher, if they had gone 6-7, 6-7 instead of sweep 5 games, everyone would have said it was if they had gone 6-7, 6-7, people would have said that was the greatest playoff run ever, because every team had over 50 wins and it was a battle. The fact, and on my side, and not because I'm a Laker fan, on my side, you go sweep 5 against all 50 plus win teams, that should be applauded a little bit more.
Sure.
So the Boston's not doing that. So they're going to go 5-4-5, right, against significantly weaker opponents.
Right.
And so when you couple the fact that you've got a team breezing through one side in the East, you've got bad teams all over the place, you got 3-4 sweeps, a couple of 5-game series, right? What do we have? We have 3. Do we have 3 sweeps and 2 5s?
So New Orleans swept Oklahoma City swept New Orleans.
Yeah. Minnesota swept Phoenix.
Let's see, who else do we have? I'm just thinking about the East, right? Thinking about the East.
Boston won in 5.
Boston won in 5. Philly won in. I'm not Philly. I'm sorry. The Knicks won in 6. Let's see.
Right, I have it. I have it handy.
Yep.
Thunder sweep. Mavericks in 6. Timberwolves sweep. Nuggets in 5.
Yep.
Celtics in 5. Pacers in 6. Knicks in 6. So you had 3 sweeps and 2 5-game that were, both teams should have been swept. No offense, I love my Lakers, but the Lakers and Heat should have been swept. So you know what I mean? Like, so where does it rank? The star power has been great. We've seen incredible performances, but it hasn't been a.
Well, let me ask you this, Tone. So
what series went 7? Only one.
Which series was that went 7?
Cavs in Orlando.
Cavs in Orlando. Yeah, that was a great series.
Orlando.
Yeah,
that was.
I actually had Cavs in 5. Actually, and that series ended up going 7. So you brought up an interesting point earlier in the show. So this playoffs, is it better than what happened in the Western Conference in '95 when the Rockets had to go through Utah, which was the number 1 seed, and they had to go through Phoenix, and they had to go through. Then they had to go through San Antonio.
Drama. That was amazing.
Yeah,
that was 7-game series NCAA stuff.
Yeah, it was.
You know what I mean? Where instead of one game, they had to do it in a series, and they did. That was riveting.
How about your Lakers in 2000 when they ended up they were supposed to sweep Sacramento. That ends up being 5 games. Then they beat Phoenix in 5 games. And when I say sweep them, that was when the series was 5 games when they ended up playing Sacramento. But then the Phoenix was 7, and then they play the Trailblazers. They're up 3-1. The Trailblazers actually push it to 7, and they're up 15 in the 4th quarter. And your Lakers come back in 2000 and ended up winning that series. Then in the Eastern Conference, when the Indiana Pacers finally get by the Knicks, finally they get by the Knicks in 2000 to get to the NBA championship. So, I mean, that was a phenomenal playoffs. Like you just mentioned, if the Lakers don't lose to Philly in that first game, which they had 10 days off, that might have been the greatest player. Not might have. That would have been the greatest player from the NBA history.
Yeah, it's still like I said, I still in the conversation. But so it's been entertaining to watch. But
Sure.
that's why I wouldn't put it up there in the top. All right. More craziness. This one from Austin Rivers.
Oh boy.
Austin Rivers only played in the NBA because of his dad, right? We all agree on that, correct?
Oh, he played a lot of years though. I mean, he played 1 or 2 years. He played.
I think we all agree. There's about 40 other guys in the world that could have played his role that never made the NBA. I might have to change my last name. I can take 30 players. I can take 30 players right now in the NBA and throw them in the NFL. You cannot take 30 NFL players and put them in the NBA.
Why not?
I think it's false on both. I don't think you can take 30 players from either league and throw them in. I guarantee you there's not 30 NBA players that can take a hit. And I guarantee you there isn't 30 NFL players that have the skill to play in today's NBA. They might have played in the 80s and 90s.
Right.
They ain't playing in today's NBA.
I'm just thinking about it from an athletic standpoint. I mean, I think the athlete is a lot better today than what he was. Don't get me wrong. I don't think that he's. Let me take that back. I don't think he's much better, but I think the athlete today, I think he's advanced. So, but the skill set, that might be the problem. So, with the pro football player, I think that I think I saw that a guy that plays for the Panthers, he signed in the Colombian basketball league. He's like leaving the NBA to go play in Colombia, play pro basketball in Colombia. I mean,
he's leaving the NFL.
Yeah, he's leaving the NFL to go play in Colombia. I don't know how he plays for the Panthers. And I don't know how common that, in fact, not only do I not know how common that is, it's not common at all. Pro football players do not become pro basketball players. And I want to know where his logic is with that. Like, when you think about...
We're talking about a guy, let's be clear. We're talking about a guy in Austin Rivers who went to one football practice and got smashed so hard that he quit that day. One practice. Like, I can't, I'm out. And he's telling me he could get 30. Clearly, he's not talking about himself. But I'm I struggle when I see stuff like this because I'm like, guys, like,
well, Tom, most basketball players. That's why
basketball players want to play football. Football players want to play basketball. I get it, but I don't think either one. There's a reason you are doing what you do, and it's not that easy to switch sports, man. Just think about it. How many two-sport stars have you seen in your life?
Bo Jackson.
And that was baseball. And Deion Sanders. And that was baseball. And guess where they both played their other time? Football. Not. How did the basketball player do on the baseball field? Not very good.
He was getting better. He was getting better, but not so much. No.
He was getting better, sure. But he wasn't good.
He just sucked less. How about that? How about that? He was getting there. He just wasn't as good. So, yeah. But if you think about football players, if you think about basketball players, most basketball players, they played football for a time and found out, nah, this ain't for me. I think I'm good.
Listen, Danny Ainge. People always knock Danny Ainge. Danny Ainge, I believe it's called in your country. He was an All-American in baseball, basketball, and football. You know how many people have done that since or before? Zero. Put some respect on that man's name.
Danny Ainge not only was he a letterman in those sports. He actually played pro baseball. He played for the Toronto Blue Jays.
The Blue Jays, yes. I'm well aware.
Yes. Danny Ainge was the real deal. And I couldn't stand Danny Ainge. Danny Ainge was one of those guys that if I saw him on the street, I'd punch him in the face. I'm sure of it. I couldn't stand Danny Ainge. He was one of the few guys in the NFL, in the NBA, that I really felt like if I saw this dude on the street, I'd punch him in his face. 100% I would. No doubt. But I couldn't deny that he was a ridiculous athlete.
Ridiculous. Here's why I believe Austin Rivers is wrong. Because that's what we're teaching these damn kids.
Oh my God.
Now I don't know what's worse. Was it the kid for doing it? And I'm going to play it again. Was it the kid for doing it?
That's a flop. Get up.
Was it his coach for teaching him how to do it?
Yeah.
Or was it this idiot ref for calling it a foul?
You bought that?
You telling me he could go? You telling me he could go take a hit from a linebacker?
No way.
Even in Pop Warner, that kid's get smoked.
He probably plays football, so give me a break.
Sure.
Yeah, give me a break. I'm good.
I'm gonna drop. I have one more thing that we're gonna discuss, but I'm going to put the link in the chat for y'all to join us and speak your mind on the NBA playoffs or anything else that we've been talking about. But let's go to this, because this one I've come prepared, just so you know, for this one. I've come very, very prepared for this one. So I warn you ahead of time that I'm prepared for it. I'm gonna have to find it, mind you, first, but because I feel like who's it? Oh, that was just okay.
The Knicks have taken the lead, by the way, Tom. They're back up.
What's here? Give us a Knicks update. Will I
the Knicks are up 5, and we're in the middle of the third, 5.5, and a little more than halfway through the third, and the Knicks are up 5, and they rolling right now. So, yep, they rolling. They're back up. They're back in effect.
Well,
Tyrese Halliburton is not 6'5". No, he is not. And the reason why I know that, because DiVincenzo ain't 6'5". So I'm good.
You think he's taller or shorter?
I think he's shorter than that. DiVincenzo is not 6'5". No, he isn't.
Joa, we will get to you guys who are popping on. We'll get to you in a minute, right after this segment. And here we are. We're going to start. This is the last thing before we get to you guys coming on and speaking your piece.
Jordan, during his heyday, 6 teams were added to the NBA. There were 90 players added to the NBA. Does that not water down the regular season to a degree?
No, it doesn't. No, it does not. No. I've always had a problem with that, Tone. I've always had a problem with that. Because with the 90, don't get me wrong, sure, the amount of guys that are added and the teams that are added, but that's not like it all happened at once. It didn't all happen in 1 year. It happened over the course of time. And because it happened over the course of time, the league adjusted to it. And those teams did get better. So it's not like 1 year you add 90 players to the league. No, that's not what happened. I've always struggled with him saying that. Always.
My issue with this is when you say that, they added 90 players, there's still a team sport, right? Still a team sport. Okay. Last time I checked, it was a team sport. So are you telling me there's not in a planet of 6-7 billion people, there's not 90 other NBA players, caliber players that are just for whatever reason? Like if I were to go scour the world right now, because don't forget, during expansion, it also opened up the world game. There was more. Now, granted, there's way more now, but international players started to come. You're telling me today, if I needed 90 players that aren't in the NBA to fill out the bottom 3 roster spots, because that's what else this is the part that they don't put into full kind of context. It's 3 players per team, right? There's 30 teams, 3 players per team. So the bottom 3, you're telling me I couldn't find the bottom 3 players for all 30 teams right now in the world? That's 1. All right. 2. When we
by the way, all at once, Tom, by the way, all at once. It's not like you're doing it over the course of years.
Right.
At once.
So let's say that's a very good point you bring up. So now I gotta get to that, because they didn't all come at once.
Right.
They came in 2 in 88, 2 in 89, and 2 in 95, 96, with the addition of the Raptors and the Grizzlies. So let me give you. I'm going to try to go through this fast. I have it queued up here, so I'll try to go through this as fast as I possibly can, guys. I apologize. Here we go. So there's the expansion. Okay. So here's what he's talking about is right here, where they go from 23 to 25 to 27, 29, and then 30. Okay. The teams that were added. So that one's not as important as the next one. The teams that were added were Miami and Charlotte.
That was in 88 and 89.
Orlando, Charlotte and Miami in 88, Minnesota and Orlando in 89, and then the Raptors and at the time Vancouver Grizzlies in 95. So
6 years later.
6 years later.
Yeah.
6 years later. So I already showed you all the breakdown, right? So have you ever heard anyone say Isaiah Thomas and the Pistons don't deserve their back-to-back championships because in 88 they added two teams, the two years that they won back-to-back, 88 and 89, they added 4 teams to the NBA, coincidentally the same years that they won. Have you ever heard that?
Not one time, Tone. Which, by the way, they actually lost one of their best dirty work guys, and they lost Rick Mahorn in the expansion draft. So, continue.
You know why they lost him? Because they didn't need him anymore. Because they had Dennis Rodman. And 95, we just talked about the Rockets' incredible run. You're telling me the Rockets don't go to back-to-back and win back-to-back NBA Finals on the strength of they added the Vancouver Grizzlies and Toronto Raptors?
I don't think that had anything to do with the Houston Rockets winning the NBA championship.
I think it had nothing to do with it.
No,
now this is where I'm going to piss a lot of people off. I would contest that the records of teams, right, has more to do, if we're talking about watered down, than any expansion draft, because load management and players not playing. I can give you a quick little rundown. I'm gonna go through this. Take more, Joa. I know you're waiting patiently. This won't take very long. Okay, let me give you just some quick statistics, and then I'm going to show you something. What's wrong?
OG Anunoby got a hamstring. He's limping off the floor.
What is wrong? These guys can't stay healthy for 5 minutes.
I think he's done for the night, Tone. I think he pulled up lame. Yep. He's limping off the floor, Tone. Yeah, he can't even get down the floor. Yeah.
Since he's using this as a way, like let's be honest, he's using this as a way to take away from Jordan's legacy.
Yep.
Which is I think that kind of narrative stuff I don't like it. You know how I feel about that. I don't like the narrative driven stuff because you're sitting on someone's payroll. So hold on. Okay, I finally have everything organized. My apologies. Here we go. All right. So 82 games. Players that played 82 games. I'm gonna go through this fast. In Jordan's 6 title runs. And JJ Redick is doing this because he's now buddies with LeBron. So I'm gonna give you the 6 Bulls championships, and I'm gonna give you LeBron's 5 of his finals trips. It's the same, but let's be honest. So in 91, their first NBA championship, 50 players played 82 games. In 92, 23. In 93, 43 played 82 games, and 1 actually played 83 games. 96, it was 44, and 1 played 83. In 97, it was 47, and 3 played 83, which is actually kind of nuts. And in 98, it was 51. So an average of about over 40 players for those 6 championship runs played over 82 games. So, and we're talking about players, not just bench players. We're talking about actual player. In 2011, 32, 1 played 83. In 2012, I only counted 66 because there's only 66 games played.
Right.
36, 28, 29, 28. So about 10 less players per year played 82 games. So you're not getting the best of the best every night. More importantly, records matter, right?
Yes, they do.
Records matter. So if records matter, let's take a quick look at, let's see, 1991. Hopefully I can do this fast. 1991, there was 3 teams, including the expansion Miami Heat and Charlotte Hornets, that won less than 30 games. Because I think if you win over 30 games, right, you're trying. There's 3 teams. Okay, not bad. 3 teams, right? Okay.
And these teams are already in the league, by the way.
And these teams are already in the league. These
They were already in these teams. This is an expansion. The Nets is already in the league. And who was that you had up there? You had the Nets, Tone. You had
it was the Nets, Charlotte, and the Nets, Charlotte, and Miami.
okay, so the Nets was already in the league.
Yeah. In 1992, so their second championship, only 2 teams in the East finished with under 30 wins. The expansion, and how long are they an expansion team for? That's the other question. Like, do we consider them expansion for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? At what point? Because if it is 10 years, well, then all of the 2000 Lakers, well, they had 3 expansion teams in the Grizzlies, the Raptors, and the Bobcats. And I'll get to the Bobcats in a second. So 2 teams that were less than 30 wins, and it was Washington, who was already in the league, and the expansion.
Orlando Magic, sure.
The expansion Orlando Magic.
Yep.
All right, let's look at 93. So we're halfway there, folks. We're halfway there. There's a lot of clicking.
This is very informative stuff too, by the way. Very informative.
93. We have again 3. Milwaukee, not an expansion team. Washington, not an expansion team. Philadelphia, not an expansion team.
Nope.
So those 3 teams do not win more than 30 games.
Miami was actually better than those 3 teams.
Oh yeah, Miami and Charlotte Charlotte especially got good very quickly.
They did.
Which people don't want to kind of address that part. Their second three-peat. So now their second three-peat, you have, let's go with 96, the year that they win 72.
Yep.
And listen, they won 72 games, so there's going to be some teams that didn't win a lot, but there's 3. Philadelphia, non-expansion team. Milwaukee, non-expansion team. And I got to stop our banners here. So I want to make sure you guys see all of them. And the Toronto Raptors. So that's their first year in existence.
Yep.
Or second year in first year in existence, I think. No, did they come in the year that the Rockets won theirs? 95?
Wasn't it 95?
Yeah, 95. So yeah. So anyways, either way, and an expansion team. So 2 non-expansion, 1 expansion team. That's in 96. We move to 97. Is that the next year? If after 96?
Yep.
If my math is correct. 97. Boom.
95, 96 was Toronto's first season.
95, 96. There you go.
Yep.
What do we got? 3 teams again? 3 teams.
All 3 of these teams. All 3 of these teams are not expansion teams. They are, because the Nets are from the ABA, but that was in the 70s.
Sure, but that was the merger. Yeah, that was the merger.
That was in the 70s. The Boston Celtics and Philly are all originals.
So you're seeing a theme here where there's 2 or 3 teams that had less than 30 wins. The last season in 98 when they win. One. Just the Raptors. That's it. It's the only team. That's the only team that won less than 30 games. Just one. So now, of course, the question is going to be asked because the narrative is about Mr. James. So what about James during his run in the East when he went to 8 straight finals? And I'm not going to bore you and go through all of them. I just picked the first 5. So in 2011, he goes to Miami. And well, he's got 4 teams that finished with under 30. So I guess that run doesn't count.
And all of these teams are originals, like the Nets.
Toronto's an expansion team.
That's it. Toronto's the only one.
Depends on how long you want to count the expansion. Like 2011, they've been around for 15 years at this point.
Right, at least they're no longer expansion teams. No.
Yeah, they should have been better. For us in Toronto, we struggled through that. 2012. Actually, I wasn't in Toronto at that time. 2012, you've got 6. So I guess the Miami Heat run is watered down because these teams now are, one of them's Philadelphia, right? Or no, Philadelphia's coming. Oh no, Philadelphia's still good here. Oh no, 35 wins or not. But there's 4 teams with under 30 wins. I guess it's load management. They're tanking. So these can't.
5.
Yeah, these can't count. Can they? Can because this must be a watered down era because there's so many teams. Right, more than during the 90s run. Here's 5 the next season. Right? Where's Miami? Oh, no wonder Miami won 66 games. They got 3 teams in their division that won less than 30. Those guys are trash. This can't be true. This watered down 2010s. I'm going to give you one more, I think. 2014? Sure, why not? Give you one more. 2014. Oh, 5 again. More. So you're telling me in the years that, and I'm not picking on Braun, I'm just pointing out why this is a silly argument. Right. You're telling me in the 90s, the watered down expansion era, the teams had better records, that more 30 plus win teams than during the 2010s when it wasn't watered down? No, true, bro. And let's give you one more last piece, and then Joa, I promise I'm going to bring you up. Let's talk about the worst records all time, shall we?
Garbage.
2012 Charlotte Bobcats, 7 wins. Well, that was during the Miami Heat run in the East. In 2016, the tanking 76ers, 10 wins in LeBron's run in the East. Then you got the Steamrollers. They got steamrolled. Dallas was in the West. Denver was in the West. The Clippers in the 80s were in the West. Oh, and then the 2010 Nuggets. Oh, and the 05 Atlanta Hawks. So you're telling me 4 out of the 10 worst records in NBA history were during LeBron's run in the East, and JJ Redick is trying to tell me that the 90s was watered down due to expansion and it has nothing to do with his new partnership and relationship with LeBron? Give me a break.
No.
Give me a break. Team. It's a team game, guys. So just because you think, you want to go look at who some of these expansion players are. When the Raptors came into the league, I don't know if you know this. You know who they should have drafted? They should have drafted Allen Iverson. But you know what? They weren't allowed to because they were an expansion team and they weren't allowed to draft the number 1 pick. Life would have been real different in Toronto had we had Allen Iverson. So my point of all that is it's another debunked now false narrative by people to try and knock that, because people forget the sum of the parts are greater than the whole. So one, maybe this, again, in the 90s, teams were built as teams. They weren't superstar driven. I didn't bring it up, but in 2011, 2 of the teams that lost, that didn't win 30 or more games was Cleveland, 19 wins, and the Raptors. Do you know what significantly happened to those 2 teams between 2010 and 2011?
Cleveland lost James and Toronto lost Chris Bosh.
Their best players left to go to Miami. You have automatically made 2 horrible teams because you all went to Miami. Yeah. So that's the part that just, again, it's false narratives. You do an excellent job. And I've told you this a million times of, hey, Jordan is my GOAT. James is your GOAT. I think we both do really good jobs of explaining why I don't use 6-0. You don't have to knock Jordan or the era to make your case, and you make an excellent case. I've told you that a million times. That's what I want to see more of, because this whole narrative driven, done with the 90s, got no left, expansion, watered down is a load of crap.
Sounds like it.
Joa Fernandez, you are up.
What's up, brother?
Thank you for your patience.
Yep. What up?
Is it
hello?
NBA?
Can you guys hear me?
Yep. What up?
I'm disappointed in Orlando. I was expecting them to win that game 7, man. I wanted to see them in round 2.
They're not there yet. They're not.
I like watching younger teams get a shot of going deeper in the postseason, kind of like how OKC has now, because then we get to push all the old guys more so into the back front, and I'll push the young guys more. I'd like to see that. But my question for you guys is,
Keep going.
My question to you guys is, what do you guys think the next rounds are going to look like in the West? Do you guys think it's over for Denver? Do you guys think it's over for the Mavs? What do you guys think it looks like in the West?
Well, this dude next to me thinks that the Denver-Minnesota winner wins the NBA championship. He doesn't think that they get to the West Finals.
Oh, wow.
He thinks that they win the NBA championship.
Now, I picked Minnesota at the beginning of the playoffs to win the NBA Finals, so that is part of what I believe.
I thought Minnesota would give Denver the toughest challenge. I said this in December. I said this in January. I thought that they give them the toughest challenge. I think the winner of this series ends up in the NBA Finals. I still think the Boston Celtics will win the NBA championship.
Yeah, I think barring any injury to Boston, they should run through the East. Whether it's Atlanta, whether it's Indiana or the Knicks, I think Boston again in 5 goes to the NBA final. Minnesota, I think Denver is done, down 0-2 and injured. Right when you got Jamal injured, KCP injured, it's too much for them to overcome. They're a team that has to be healthy to be successful. Dallas is done. I think the Luka injury is more significant than even he's letting on, and I think OKC is just too talented. Even though they're young, right? They're the youngest team. I believe they're the youngest team to win whatever many games this season. They're going to be the youngest team probably to make it to the Western Conference Finals in history. They're still missing a vet, I think, from winning. I think they lose to Minnesota, like I said, and I think Minnesota beats Boston because Boston can't play in close games, and I think Minnesota, because of their defense, is going to keep those games close.
There it is, Joe.
There
it is.
Do you think it might be? What do I think? I think the Celtics win because like they have a similar setup to what Minnesota has. Top 5. Well, not just because I'm a fan, but also because like they're a top 5 defense and they have the best offense in the league. So it's going to be about like which is going to be better, the best defense or the best offense in the league. So I think we can slow Minnesota down more than they can slow us down, is what I'm trying to say.
I think between the 3 of us, I'm the only one that's not a fan of any of these teams. You're not a fan of Boston, but you're a huge fan of Jason Tatum. You're obviously a Boston fan. So I'm going to go with my impartial view and go with me. Yes, next question.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
And this is a question for you, Fluent. What do you think your Lakers got to do to get back in the NBA championship? Do you think they got to trade AD, LeBron? Who do you think they should? What do you think they should do?
Trade AD 2 years ago. I said when he went on that run, remember 2 years ago, he went on that 10-game run where he was like,
last year. This was actually last year.
Was it last year? Oh, last year. Yeah, you're right. It feels like
last year, right before the trade deadline. You was like, move him.
Move him. Yes, absolutely. They need to move AD. LeBron's a tough one. Like you can't be the GM that trades LeBron, or maybe you can. I don't know. But I think the problem is, and I said this earlier in the show, I don't know if you're watching, the fact that when they won that the bubble ring, they didn't run it back. I think they gave up on that squad too early, and I think they needed to run it back, and they've been trying to throw stuff around ever since, right? Going through coaches, going through players. Like they've had like 40 different players come in and out of the organization in those 2 years or 3 years since that has happened. So to answer your question, they need, I don't want to say scrap it, but they definitely need to figure out, they know what works. Let me go back and say that. They know what works, right? I've said this before. Having Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee next to Anthony Davis works. Having a defensive, like a perimeter defender there with James works. They haven't done it since that year that they won. So that's what they need to do. They need to get those bigs and figure out where they can find a perimeter defender. That's why I say they should have run it back, because they had those pieces. They were ready to go. They could have been in the next year's finals, and they blew it.
Do you think that LeBron? Do you think AD gets traded before LeBron does, though?
You don't listen. You don't trade LeBron. So unless LeBron says, "Hey, whatever drafted Bronny, I want to go play with him," Bron's not getting traded unless he says, "I want to go somewhere." I don't think he does. Now, then again, I believe he's a free agent.
Yes, he is. He comes off the books at the end of this year. So
that might actually that question might solve itself, which is horrible if he just walks for nothing. But he might just go somewhere else anyways, and then you have to trade AD and start over. If LeBron walks, you have to Rob Pelinka, look at me. You have to trade AD and start over.
So you blow it up. Bron goes, AD goes as well, and you just blow it up.
You have to. Yeah, you have to. That team is so LeBron centric, right? Like, just think about it. He's coming up on 40 years old, and if he doesn't play well, they lose. That's not sustainable.
Right. It is. Yep. All right, Joe. Good to talk to you, brother.
Well, all right. You guys have a good one.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes,
I
sir.
was having so much fun. I didn't realize the time had passed.
Getting calls from the suits.
I'll give you some quick little note for those that are still here. All the wonderful shows, easy for me to say, that were on Chilltown Hoops are moving back to Sports Fluent, a nice safe place for them. Everything you see on Chilltown Hoops moving forward will be involving Mr. Chilltown himself. We tried it, a lot of confusion. So we're still a team, we're still together, but you're just gonna go to if you want hockey, baseball, all that other all those young creators, that we're trying to give an opportunity to, we're still giving them an opportunity to shine. It's just gonna be over on Sports Fluent, Fluent and Chill, Chilltown Hoops. Are you bringing? I don't know if you're bringing. Are you doing any other shows on Chilltown?
This right here, Fluent and Chill.
Fluent and Chill, and your regular Chilltown Hoops.
Right.
That stuff remains here. So every time you come here, no more confusion about where the hell. Last night even, where the hell's Chill? You had just left, by the way, and someone, where's Chill? I'm like, he literally just left.
I was here. I was there.
Everything you see on Chilltown Hoops is gonna be Chilltown.
Yep.
So no more confusion. Next week we'll be back with Haley, who will be back from her hiatus. We'll probably be talking about the second round. It'll be over by then, right? So it'll be the conference finals.
Yeah, we're talking about the West Finals, the East Finals at that point. Sure.
Yeah, so it'll be Minnesota, OKC, Boston, and Indiana.
Yep.
Those are my picks.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Y'all know what it is. So it was good to see you guys tonight. Thanks for hanging out with us. As you know, Fluent and Chill, we do this I know that Wednesday we had a little bit of a schedule change.
Today's Wednesday. I completely forgot. We'll be back to Tuesdays. Yes.
We're back on we're back on Tuesday night, so there's no misunderstanding about what we're doing. We're back on Tuesday nights with myself, Tone, and the lovely playmaker Haley. So we'll be doing that, and we'll be here every Tuesday night, 8 o'clock. You guys know where to find us, and we'll see you guys soon. But until then, put on a suit, drink water, don't drink and drive. Hey, man, call your mother. When last time you talked to your mother? Call your mother. We'll see you guys soon. But until then, take it light. Take it.
Call your mother t-shirts are there. The merch. Go cop the merch. Go cop